guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brittany. I am a part-time reseller on the Poshmark app under the name Shop Foxborough. I have an Etsy shop for vintage called Foxborough Vintage, and the rest of my part-timeness is spent on my handmade business, the Purple Hedgehog, on Etsy. So all those things combined, I'm a full-time work-at-home parent to a mother of two little boys. One is 3 years old and one is just 7 months old. And I'm here to talk to you today about something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about in the YouTube world, and that is how to get more money for the items that you already have. So not how to source higher dollar inventory, not how to buy brands that are gonna, pull in more money, but how to take what you already have and make it so that you get more out of that item. So you might see sellers like Empty Hanger on Poshmark, and I'll put her closet here so you can just sort of check it out. And she sells, band t-shirts for $35, and you pick up a band t-shirt and it doesn't sell for $10. And you're like, how does she do this? I could never get that kind of money for these same items. And today I'm kind of here to talk to you about how she does do that, and how I've built up my ability to sell things that other people have priced lower, why they come to me instead of buying those cheaper items. And yeah, so just talk to you today about how to get more money out of what you've already got. If you would like to check out my shops and see what I'm doing, you can find them all in the comments below. Feel free to say hi. You can leave me a comment down below, comment on my Meet the Pasha or any of my listings, and I'll say hello. Send me a message on Etsy, any of that, and I'll say hi back. Now, I've split this video into a two-part series. The first part we're going to be talking about today, and that is all about your listings. So it's about your photos and your description, and we're going to go into detail about how to work with those two things on Poshmark, on Etsy, to get more money out of your items. And then the next part in the series is going to be how to build your closet or your Etsy shop, and how to build buyer confidence so that they feel comfortable spending their higher dollar money with you. So they want to give you more of their money than they would if you were just an everyday reseller. So we're going to talk about those two things in the next video. But today we're going to start off with talking about photos. And if you see me glancing down, I have my little cheat sheet here so I don't ramble too much, and I make sure to stay on point so this video is nice and short. So my first tip for you is to make sure to take good photos. And I know that sounds, okay, yeah, sure, take good photos, but I mean it. So nothing tells me that you're not a serious seller when you've got your items laying on a bed or a floor, and I can kind of see some stuff on your carpet, or you've got them hanging on your closet door. If I see that, I think, oh, this person is selling their items from their closet, which is totally fine, but that's not why you're here. So what you want to do is make sure that you have a nice, clean presentation. You want nice, bright lighting, natural light if you can, but there's tools. You can get a ring light on Amazon, and you can get, parachute lights or umbrella lights to kind of have a diffused natural lighting so that you can take photos any time of day. If you are a work-at-home parent like me, or you have a full-time job and the only time that you have to posh or to list on Etsy is in the evening, then you're going to want to go ahead and purchase some lighting so that you're not reliant on that natural light to shoot your photos. So you can kind of see behind me, I've got a nice big picture window, and I've got my wall. It's not a stark white. It is like a slightly off-white because I've found that that's gonna absorb the light better than a stark bright light is, and it's not gonna cast as many shadows. So just think about where in your home you want to take your photos. Is it gonna be on a neutral wall? Is it gonna be on a bright wall? Like I've seen sellers like Vintage Saint who do a great job popping pictures on their bright blue wall, and that's a lot of fun, and it gives them kind of a distinct picture for when you're scrolling through, you kind of think, oh, I know exactly who that is. So you kind of need to pick where you're going to photograph and just make sure that your lighting is good and it's not too shadowy. You don't have too much stuff in the background to distract the user, the buyer, from what they're looking at. So you want to make sure that your item is front and center. You don't want to have too many props in your photo. A few is fine, you know, maybe you have a palm leaf, or you've got some flowers that you've arranged nicely, or you've got something that kind of goes with the item. But if you have too much stuff in the background, it's going to be really distracting. The same thing goes for if you shoot on a background that's really busy, like maybe your comforter or something like that. That's detracting from the item, and that's making it so that people aren't able to see the item as well. The same thing goes for like a brick wall. So it could be really nice. Maybe it's a whitewashed brick wall. It's sort of neutral. It's in the background. But there's a lot of brick walls that have too much texture, too much variation in color. So you really want to think about that from a buyer's perspective. When they look at the photo, what are they focusing on? Is it your item? Because that's what you want. Another really great way to list items, especially if you don't have a lot of space, is to flat lay them. So I love to do flat lays for things like pants, kids items, some men's items, and then things like jumpsuits that just look weird on a hanger and you can't put them on a mannequin or a dress form. So go ahead and you can search on Pinterest for flat lay ideas, and there's just a whole slew of great information that you can find about how to do flat lays. And you can search through Poshmark and you can see other users who are doing flat lays, and you can kind of see whether or not you can go into their closet and you can see whether or not that's something that you could do too. Just a nice big poster board. I actually like to use a fold out foam board, so I have a lot of space to work with. And then you're just going to lay the items with complementary items in a way that's attractive to the buyer. So if you're not very good at styling items, if you're just kind of reselling brands that you've heard about and you've heard other people, you know, talking about them and said they could get a lot of money for, then you're probably not going to want to do a flat lay unless you're confident in your styling abilities, because you want cohesion and consistency in your closet, and that's going to be a really important element. Another thing that people don't think a lot about is to clean your camera lens before you start shooting. So we're constantly grabbing our cameras, maybe we have kids, we're touching our phone, and sometimes your hand just smudges that camera lens. So clean it off before you start shooting. You want to make sure you have nice, crisp, clear photos. And that goes for if you're shooting with, you know, a handheld camera as well and not your phone. You just want to make sure that your lens is clean and that everything is in focus and you're shooting nice, clear photos. Now, on Etsy, you can list, I believe it's up to 10 photos on your listing. And on Poshmark, you can list up to 8. Use those photos. You're trying to build buyer confidence. So areas that you can show are going to be a front view, a side view, a back view. Then you're going to want to do some close-up shots, especially if there's any interesting detail or texture. Maybe there's some embellishment that you could show up close. People love to see what they're actually getting. Sometimes the fabric looks different from far away than it is up close. So just getting those nice, crisp photos of the different elements of the garment is going to make it so that your buyers feel more confident in what they're purchasing. And you also want to make sure to take photos of your tags. So if there are tags on the items, sometimes vintage items don't have tags, but if there are tags on the item, you want to take a photo of the size and the brand tag, and then the fabric content tag. And that's going to save you a lot of hassle in the long run. People are going to ask those kinds of questions. They're going to say, oh, is this wool? Does it have any Angora in it? I hate Angora. I can't wear it. So any kind of wool blend, I need to make sure it doesn't have Angora in it, or I'm not going to be able to wear it. So to save yourself from buying or from getting those kinds of questions, just go ahead and take a picture of the fabric content tag. And that's actually going to help you later when you're listing as well, because then you're going to know right then and there, straight from your pictures, what the fabric content is, and you can just pop that into your listing. You also want to show areas that sometimes get wear. So even if the garment doesn't have wear in those areas, sometimes it's nice for the buyer to just see that and confirm for themselves. So I like to do the armpits because you get a lot of pilling at the armpits or stains occasionally. The crotch area of, pants or swimsuits. You just want to make sure that the buyer knows that it's nice and clean and that you're not hiding anything. The soles of shoes. Make sure that you don't forget to photograph the bottom of a shoe. That can really tell how much wear a shoe has seen. Maybe it looks really great on top, but the soles are in rough shape. So just give your buyers everything they need, all the photos, to just really show that you're not trying to hide anything, you're putting it all out there, and this is the item that they're going to get. End of story. So let's recap that. We've got take good photos with natural lighting. You want a clean background that the buyer knows exactly what item you're selling, so not too much going on that they can't tell what the item is that you're trying to sell to them. You want crisp, clean photos, so make sure to clean that lens off and make sure your camera is in focus. And you want to take lots of photos so that you're showing all the detail of the item. And you want to show problem areas, even if there's no problem, so that the buyer can know for sure that that item is in great shape. Now, next up, let's talk about your description. So this is worlds of important. On Etsy, it's a little more complicated than it is on Poshmark. There's all sorts of drop-down menus, and you got to pick all kinds of different stuff, and the sleeve length, and whether it closes with buttons or toggles, and so that's a little more complicated, but it's really important to fill all of that stuff out. The same thing goes for if you're a seller on eBay. If you don't fill out all of the necessary information, it makes it harder for buyers to find you if they're looking for something specific. On Poshmark, it's a little bit easier. You've got maybe one or two options. Maybe you're selling a dress and you have the option to choose that it's got an asymmetrical hem. That's great. So listing on Poshmark goes really fast because of that. But you still want to make sure that you take the time to put in all that information for whatever platform you're selling on. If they're asking you for the information, give it to them. So in your description, you want to make sure that you're not using super subjective keywords. So things like cute, pretty, beautiful, sexy. You want to make sure that you're taking yourself out of it and you're just describing the item as it is. So get familiar with necklines, with sleeve types, with waist types, inseam types, and just make sure that you're using all the descriptive words about the garment and not subjective words about your opinion of how it looks. Another thing that's great to add in is if you're selling an item from a company that gives item names like ModCloth, Anthropologie, Sundance, Free People, you want to try and find the style name for it if you can. And then just put that in the description. Don't bother taking the great space in your title for that, but go ahead and put it in the description. And that way anyone who's searching for the Anthropologie Lemon Liftoff blouse can find that even if it's not in your title. You also want to put the fabric content if it is particularly luxe fabric content. So if it's 100% wool, linen, occasionally I'll put that something is 100% cotton, or let's say that it's alpaca or cashmere. Those things are keywords that people actually search for. So maybe somebody wants a cotton sundress. If you don't include that fabric content in your listing, they're not going to be able to find it. So you just want to make sure that you're using the fabric content as another element of keywords. So like I said, you also want to add in design features. So if it has 3/4 sleeves, if it has a tie neckline, if it has a sweetheart neckline, if it's a fit and flare dress, you want to make sure you know what you're talking about, because knowing those keywords is going to give buyers the confidence to buy from you. So maybe your buyer doesn't know what a dolman sleeve is, but you clearly do. So you've put that in your description and they can feel more confident purchasing from someone who knows what they're talking about. And that's another really great way to get bumped up in the SEO keywords category, is that you're typing in the actual description of the garment and all of its little fine details. And the last part I'm going to give you for that actual description of your item is to perhaps add in a style suggestion. So if you have something that's a little bit on the quirkier side, I'll give you an example. I just sold a pair of knit shorts. So they had an elastic waist and they were just knit shorts, no lining or anything like that. And I was like, these are super cute, and if you were looking for them, my shop would probably be the only place you would be able to find them, but how do you wear them? So what I did was I went ahead and went to Pinterest and I typed in knit short outfit ideas. And so I kind of scrolled down and I got a couple of ideas, and I decided, you know what, these would be really cute with leggings and booties. So I put that into the description, and what do you know, it's sold within a week. So we just want to give your buyer ideas of how they can wear the item, especially if it's something unique. You don't need to give them an idea of how to wear a red sweater. They can figure that out. But if it's something that maybe you're like, oh, this is so cute, but where would I ever wear it? That's when you need to step in and say, this is where you would wear it. So you also want to make sure that you always include measurements. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to get away with not including measurements, especially in my Poshmark listings. And lo and behold, a month later or a week later or even a day later, someone comes along and they say, what are the measurements? And I have to go dig that item out and measure it for the buyer. And a lot of times I've heard time and time again on my Facebook groups, on, just chats that I've had with people, that they're not even going to ask you for those measurements. If you don't have them listed right there, if they can't confirm that that item is going to fit them, they're just going to walk away. You want them to strike while the iron's hot, while they're thinking about your item, while they're on your page, and if they have to come back, if they have to remember to check back, then you've kind of lost that momentum. So just go ahead and put the measurements in straight away, and that way, once you put your item in the bin for storage, it's done. You don't have to pull it out again until it sells. And the last thing is to always include the condition. So you want to make sure that even if your item is in excellent condition, you say so, because it's another hurdle for somebody to have to ask you, what condition is this item in? I see it all the time on Poshmark. People have a nice items just freshly listed, and there's comments down below that say, are there any stains or holes or tears or snags, or what's the condition of this item? Just put it in the description straight away. Don't ever forget. And another thing is to not use any abbreviations. So EUC, NWT, VGUC. We might know what those are as resellers, but your buyer might not know what that is. So say you've got a nice dress and a boyfriend comes along and he's like, my girlfriend would look really good in that dress and I want to buy it for her. And it says EUC condition. And he's like, what does that mean? And who knows, for him it could mean that it has some kind of flaw or stain, and so he either has to take the time to ask about that, unlikely, or he's just going to pass it up. So just say excellent pre-owned condition, very good pre-owned condition, and just be descriptive about any flaws that are on the item, because you don't want the buyer to have any unsuspected surprises when they get the product. So let's recap the second part of that. So the descriptions, you want to make sure that you're using as many keywords as you can, and that they're keywords that are descriptive about the item and not keywords that are subjective like cute, cozy, sexy. Nobody is really searching for those things. And if you do want to use those keywords, use them in a subtle way towards the end of your description, but don't make it front and center. And you always want to include measurements, and you always want to include the condition. So using everything you can about the item to give the buyer a clear, confident picture that they know what they're going to get when they open that package from Etsy or when they open that package from Poshmark. And that is the long and short of it. So maybe that seems a little bit duh, but let me tell you it's not. So I will show you an example over here of a skirt that I had. It was a vintage Gap skirt, and it was covered in really pretty cute, subjective words, postcard print and it was vintage. So the postcards were from all over, and it was probably like late 90s Gap piece. And it was 100% silk, and when I looked up the comps for it on Poshmark, people had sold it for $5, $6, $4, and I think one was like $15. And I was like, what? The skirt is super cute. I can't sell it for that. So I went in and I looked at those pictures, and all of them, they just had dark backgrounds or no measurements or, poor descriptions. And so I took a nice photo, wrote a nice description, and gave my buyers the confidence that they needed with listed measurements to buy that item. And lo and behold, it didn't take too long and it sold for $30. So that's quite a different amount from all the other sold listings that were posted. Now, there weren't any available at the time, but I can guarantee your buyers are not going to go into Poshmark and search for your item and see, oh, well, they've only sold for $10 in the past, I'm going to offer this person $10. No. See, the point is that you're setting the expectation of price when you do all of your due diligence in getting it listed. So you're taking a nice clear photo, you're doing a nice description with lots of information for that buyer, and you're charging for that in turn. Your time is money, so you're not just throwing it on the bed, you're not just throwing it on the floor. You're taking that item and you're really putting it out there in its best light, and for that you're charging the amount of money that you want to get for that item. And I've heard Empty Hanger say it before. She has the same item that other people have listed on Poshmark. They're actively listed together, same size, but people come to her because they trust her and her listing is clear and it's descriptive and it's got measurements, and the other person just photographed it straight out of their closet on a hanger in a dark room. So really think about that when you're going out there and you're photographing your items and you're listing your items. Don't take the easy way out. Make sure that you put all the information that you can in that listing, and that's going to get you more money. So that wraps up this portion of this little mini series. And if you learned something today, if you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can hit the bell notification so that the next part of this video that I put out, you get notified for. And we're going to be talking about building your brand and your closet or your Etsy shop and just the appearance of that in general. And we're going to be talking about building buyer confidence and things that you can do to really put yourself out there and make buyers trust you. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and subscribe, give me a like, and I hope I'll see you again. Thank you so much for watching.